And here we are, Lindsay Bruce. How's it going, pal?
Good to be back as always.
Good to be back. This is your fourth appearance. And for those that
Four.
were,
Yeah, four. It's not bad.
yeah, number you're my top guest.
You know what
How
it's
about
like?
that? Only met you once. Maybe that's why. Yes, you are one of my favorite guests, and it is. We were having a chat last week, and I thought let's do one. It's been a while since I think it was November last year. But just for those who want to check it out, it's episode 30, first one I did, episode 62, and then episode 91. So quite a lot. Then quite a lot of it podcast.
30, did you say? It was.
Episode 30 was the first one.
Oh, it's
So
quite
that's a couple of years ago.
Doctor.
You were. Aye. One of the, yeah.
Because I've done loads of podcasts now, but I think the first podcast I did was about 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 7 years ago. So time flies.
This is my 112th, if you can believe that.
That's good going.
I know. I was thinking that the other day. When I hit the 100, I thought, right, you got to keep going. Got to keep going. Anyway, Lindsay Bruce, what are you? How do you describe yourself? You are we used to serve together in the Royal Highland Fusiliers, which is now 2nd Battalion of the Royal Regiment of Scotland.
Something like that.
And then you went Special Forces. You can hear all about his exploits in the previous episodes. And now runs the Modern Warrior Project, which is his coaching platform for guys like me, really. Middle-aged blokes who let themselves go, although I haven't let myself go.
You've been polite there. I would have said something else.
Yeah. What would you have said?
No,
Oh, I know you would have said.
It's actually the opposite of what I say. Obviously, I go against that, the grain of thinking we're all getting older. It's like it's only in your psyche. Obviously, there's father time. We can't outrun father time forever, but you can certainly keep up and not let him take over too much.
I agree. Well, Lindsay, I just had a bath, right? For the first time in a while, I went for a bath. I played football yesterday. Picked up an injury playing football a few months ago, thinking, it feels okay, I'll go and play. And it felt fine. And then something else went. And this has been happening pretty much all summer. I think it's mainly because I don't give myself time to recover properly. Except the one I did right in the inside of one of my butt cheeks. I want a muscle right up there, right on the junction where the leg goes into to the pelvis.
Yeah.
And it's anyway, that's okay. It's much better anyway. But things just keep kind of breaking.
It's like pull, tear, whatever.
Yeah, exactly what it was. And I think, sometimes you think to yourself, am I just getting to that age where your body starts to fall apart? But I refuse to believe that. I just think it's down to recovery. I do a lot of stretching now, a lot more stretching than I've ever done, especially my hips and my hamstrings and stuff. I think that's where I have the big problems. Anyway.
How old are you now?
That, 51.
So I think I saw this actually on a post this morning of all time, so very well timed. Good metaphor. When guys hit 40, so let's say the 40 to 50 bracket, right? You can be in great shape. In fact, this was actually a guy who's on my face. I forget his name, actually, but he's a guy who's 50 years old, just turned 50, and he's in phenomenal shape. Admirable physique. Loosely, he's got the physique of a 25-year-old who's got a good physique. And he was talking about the subject around looking after ourselves, especially as we age. And his metaphor was that at the age of 40, the red lights started coming on the dashboard. And if you don't pay attention to them, then that's when shit really goes wrong. So if you think about that like a car, how many times have you had a warning sign come up in an amber on your car? You go, I'll do it later. Then that turns into a red, and then you wish you'd sorted it out the first time you get the warning. Kind of the same thing. So
that's exactly the metaphor. And I've ignored the problem in my hips for forever, really. I mean, I do, I'll do a bit of yoga. No, I used to do it 2-3 times a week, and then I cut back. I stopped doing it because I felt better again. And then you just have to, it's a maintenance. It's like having an old car. I'm basically an old car.
Yeah.
And it needs constant maintenance. But what I've really found is stretching out my hips has been really beneficial. And I think a lot of it goes back to what the sports I do. So Like football, for instance, skiing, everything is basically you're kind of in a crouched position. You know, you're
Yeah,
your psoas muscles get tight, all their hip flexors get tight, and you never really. The only thing it does help with it is swimming and surfing, because your body's in the opposite direction. You've got an arch in your back,
so you
back the way as opposed to front the way. So that is how I think that I need to continue, and it just requires the maintenance and rest, and of course,
proper mobility training. So we have a guy called Brian who is he provides us mobility programs for the Modern Warrior Project. So
I've used them.
You have, and those are very good. But it's not passive stretching. It's more active. It's more activation stuff. So activating the muscles under a stretch position. Different way of looking at it, rather than just stretching a muscle out. You know, it's actively contracting a muscle under a stretch position. A lot of that work is involved in Brian stuff, and I think it's really effective. Coincidentally, I'm going to see Sam, former Modern Warrior, tomorrow actually, to get my hip sorted, because when I was training for the half in Ireland, the Giants Causeway Coast half marathon a few weeks ago, in the training to that, I started to get niggles in my hip, and it feels like the hip. It feels like you need a hip replacement. It's that kind of pain, but it's just tightness from various places. And I'm guilty of this. I didn't do enough mobility leading up to that. Didn't do enough stretching. Just trained. Silly, I know, but guilty as charged. And I'm going to see Sam tomorrow to get a treatment on it, because it's becoming chronic to the point where I can't go for a 5K run without being in extreme pain. So yeah, need to take care of those lights in the dashboard.
Yeah. And I get the same. It's just in the crook of the hip.
Yeah,
I can put,
but
and there's nothing you can really. I mean, if I lift, so when you in the morning when you bend your knees to pull on your jeans or whatever, I have to pull my knee up with my other hand because it's too painful.
Why am I visualizing this?
Why don't don't yeah don't that's. I don't. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's say put my socks on once the jeans are on. How about that?
Yeah. See, that used to be it used to be the same problem in a different light years ago. When I was bodybuilding, I get so big, I would get really heavy, that it was always that the key that you might need to start doing a cut was that when you start feeling that you're going to pass out by pulling your socks on.
What is that? Just because of blood pressure or something?
Weight, just sheer weight. I mean, when you're bulking up to, I mean, when I got like my biggest, like, I mean, I was typically featherweight boxer when I was back in the battalion, so I was like 9 stone wet. When I did selection, in fact, I think I was 9.5 stone. You know, I was tiny.
Yeah. And
I sit around, I don't know, 13 stone, 12.5, I think.
Yeah, that's the same as me.
We're 12.5 stone.
I'm about 78 kilos.
Good weight. Yeah, same. Exactly same. So,
yeah, I haven't really changed. I think I gained a bit weight when I joined the army, because there's plenty of food and you're doing lots of exercise, and I've pretty much stayed at that weight since. I mean, a few kilos here and there, but yeah, it's funny. But it's, you know, that was 26 years ago.
Yeah.
There you go. So it's not bad if you can maintain that. But
I mean, I went up to like 4 from like, so I went up to like 9.5 stone to like 14.5.
Yeah.
That's
a lot.
Yeah. Can run a bath. Never mind a half marathon at that weight. But my goal now is to get a bit heavier, actually. My goal now is to get a bit bigger, add some lean muscle tissue, but still be able to run. So it's about that all-round capable man style. See, the way that I think it's important to think about this is it is a mindset. So fortunately, I've got that mindset where I'm 47 and I'm thinking closing in on the 50 mark. It's always 3 years away, right? But I have that mindset of I want to be way better than I want to be way better at 50 than I was at 40. It's a 10-year gap. It's like it's 20% of your whole life at 50, but it's totally possible with the right mindset. I think it's about people people talk themselves out of getting in the best shape of their lives at 40, 50 and beyond that, because they just have that subconscious conditioning that, I'm older. That means X, Y, and Z. I can't pull on muscle as easy. I can't lose fat as easy. I'm not as strong as I once was. I need to be careful. I can't run myself from 9,000 revs like I used to when I was a kid. But it's all bullshit. You tell yourselves that you're still very capable and healthy at 50. Obviously, as you know.
Well, I have a friend who, a very old friend of mine. He every Sunday night to Monday night, Sunday evening to Monday evening, he fasts every month. So he does one fasted day a week, and he says it's just I can eat, drink, do what I want the rest of the time, and it's absolutely fine. It's just it's like and he's I know what it's like because the thought of fasting 24 hours is very daunting for me because a man who likes his food a lot is to actually even think about taking a 24-hour fast because you get to the point where you're like your guts are.
That's a baby fast.
I know it is a baby fast, so I'm going to come to it. So I'm fasted right now. I'm going to go to the gym after this, and I'll have dinner tonight. So that's 24 hours. And I was chatting to, I had to go on base. So about a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, I was walking around and I was thinking, when you get that feeling when you feel like your body is too big for your body, that everything's clamped in and closed. This is before I started the stretching properly. And I do, like when I do stretching, I do like 3-minute holds, so you get that real, so that, and then you can't, so your legs bent in one weird direction and it takes a while to unbend it, And so before I was doing that, and then I went to go and see a friend of mine who's an osteopath. And he said that your spine isn't, you got so many vertebrae out of alignment. So he cranked me back into shape. And it's taken 3 sessions for my neck. And I can't think why that is, really why it's particularly my neck. That falls.
Is it tight?
No, it's out of alignment. And so what happens is all the muscles, they try it because it's out of alignment. You got these certain muscles working extra hard to maintain the balance, the equilibrium. Is what he told me, and so I was getting the pain down behind my shoulder blade, and down the front of my neck and all that. So anyway, he cracked it. Huge amount of information, he said, but I had to go back. I've been back, so I've been there 3 times, and he sometimes says it takes 3 or 4 times to get it fixed, and so because of that. I did that. Then I thought, right, you really have to get the stretching. You just can't keep going back to him because it's not sustainable. And it's a plaster. It's a Band-Aid on top of an open wound. So that's why I've been going to him. And I've also started a regime, which I call the lazy man's regime. So it's for me, and it's to do every day. Although I took 2 days off because my performance just went through the floor, is to do max pull-ups and max push-ups every day. So just so it doesn't matter where I am in the world, if I can find somewhere to hang off and there's always a floor, I can do that. And I'm actually doing it with my wife. She's doing the same thing with the max push-ups and that. And the goal is to get to 20 dead hang pull-ups. So,
Are you doing as many as you can in one go?
Yeah, but I'm just come to that. Okay. So I do maximum 1 in the morning and maximum push-ups. So it's basically what I do. But then I'll go to the gym and do them, and then I'll do max, and then I'll do a few more on top, and I'll do max again, then max again. Same with the push-ups. But then I'll do other things. I'll do the deadlifts, I'll do the squats and a bunch of stretching. So the point being is what I'm trying to say, Lindsay, in my usual long-winded way, is if I can get to, and I think it should be by sort of hopefully early next year to do it, is to get to 100 push-ups. So I could do 100 push-ups straight and 20 pull-ups. And figure if I can do that every day for the rest of my days, then, I'm done, right? You're absolutely done. And some squats, things like that, and just stay maintaining the muscle mass and the strength. And I think, how many 50-year-olds can do, 51-year-olds can do 20 pull-ups and 100 push-ups? It's not that many.
Not many.
So that's my
20-year-olds can do that, to be fair.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm up to 11, let's say 11 pull-ups And bearing in mind, when I was in the army, I could only do, I think my max was about 8.
Really?
Yeah. I was always useless at them, and now I can do more. Um, yeah, it is. It is. So it's quite interesting. So that's my new thing, and you don't have to. It doesn't have to go that hard. You just do as many as you can, and stop when you get.
It's giving you a method to the madness as well. Which gives you clarity. It's like you know what you're doing. You know what your goals are. You know what your strategy is. I think there's a better strategy. Might go into that maybe.
You can if you like. Well, actually, let's talk about the Modern Warrior project. Before we go into that, though, I just let's go. Well, you had your very successful, very popular Instagram page nuked. You're the second guest. I had Mike Mason. He got shadow banned at 120, but I think he's about 250,000 now. So they must have taken that shadow ban off. But you were about near enough 30,000, weren't you?
I don't know why Mike's got shadow banned. I had like 30,000, and there was quite a few. A guy called Mike Chadwick. I know that he had his disabled. Mike had a couple 100,000. I'm not sure how many he's got now, but he's got a very good following. There was one guy that I heard of through a friend of mine who had 1 million followers on Instagram. You got something that's questioning the legitimacy. I mean, I did a bit of digging with this, so I had the chance to get this potentially rescued, recovered.
Yeah.
So there's some dude that was, you know what it's like. You put it out there, my Instagram's been hacked, and then the advice comes thick and fast sometimes by some good sources as well. So there were a few people that said to me, look, this happened to a friend of mine, huge following, multiple cases this happened. And there were a lot of people had their accounts disabled for whatever reason I don't know, right? But the way it happened with mine was that I got a warning message come up, suddenly on my Instagram, I got a warning message saying, your account is going to be being temporarily disabled because you're not adhering to the community standards or some crap, right? So straight away I'm thinking, what have I posted that's not in line with that? And I couldn't think of anything. And then the next thing you know, I had a message asking me if I wanted to appeal the disabled page. So I did, sent an appeal, and then within 10 minutes, it said, "Oh, you'll get a notification within 24 hours." 10 minutes later, I got an email saying your account has been permanently disabled, and there is no way of getting it back because you can't speak to a human, right? And there's an irony in this as well, is that they say that there's suspected automation while sending you automated messages, right? So kind of hypocritical.
Well, what do they mean by automation?
Because I got a message the other day as well on my new account, which was like, here we go again. So there was some dude that apparently you could contact and pay him £800, and he would recover your account for you. Don't know how, but he was doing it. I think he did it for Mike's account, as in Mike Chadwick, not Mike Mason. And I thought, you know what, fuck this. I'm not paying for this shit. I thought you just kind of like playing into the hands of the digital world. Then, as much as it's something that I think, yeah, I need this because it's my business. The majority of my leads come from Instagram, but I just protested against it. I thought, no, I'm not doing this. This is just farcical, you know. So I decided just to completely forget about it and start a whole new page, which is what I did. Mm-hmm. So with the automation thing, I got a message last week saying suspected automation. Now, it could be a few things. So what I'm very conscious about now, because there's so much shit out there, and I think in hindsight, thinking back to my old account, yeah, there were 30,000 followers, but I would say later on in the process, I've seen followers coming and going, these followers coming from, but some of them just didn't look legit. I couldn't be bothered going into it and going, removing followers one by one. So there's probably like maybe, I don't know, maybe a few hundred accounts that I would have suspected as being maybe dodgy accounts or something. So I got this same notification, not the same one. I got another notification last week saying suspected automation. So I went into my followers, and out of like 5,000 on it, whatever now, out of the followers I had on there, it was like 20 suspected, 20 suspicious accounts or whatever. So I just removed them all, right? And then that's it. Whether it was anything to do with that, I don't know. The other thing is that when you attach a CRM to your business page, like a system that manages all your messages. So I've got a system that I use for all my platforms, and it centralizes it so that my assistant can go in and manage my inbox messages for me. And then it obviously goes into a workflow or a funnel system. So email campaigns or applications to appointments, you know the score. It's just a management system for your business. So when you use social media to these things, a lot of the time Meta doesn't like certain platforms, and there's many of them. So it gets a bit of a hard on with certain platforms. So I think it might be, so I disconnected it from that temporarily anyway. I never got another message, thankfully, so who knows? It's volatile.
What is your new account name? I know what it is, but you tell.
My new account name is Lindsay Bruce Official. It's a verified account, so there's a blue tick on there. And the reason that's on there is because, and I had to pay for that this time. Like last time I got it for free, but I had to pay for it this time because it's the only way that people can then know it's your account, because you got to send photograph ID. You got to submit your passport details to get the verification in your account. So people then know, it's legit, because there was loads of accounts, fake accounts with me on it as well. I don't know why. I had a real problem with that as well. I mean, it's not funny because there was victims involved with this, right? So, have you seen the program on Netflix called the Tinder Swindler?
Yeah.
Right. And it's like you couldn't make that shit up.
Yeah.
I remember watching that thinking, how is he doing this? How is he getting away with this, right? And then it obviously unfolds and you find out how he did it, which is very calculated. So, first time this happened, and this happened many times. I would probably say 10 times at least this happened. Random message comes in. Oh my God, this is really you. Verified account, obviously, so they know that the guy in the picture is definitely the guy with the account. So I'm like, nature of the message, what is it? And as the story goes, there's obviously droves of these people doing this, but it's a typical scam. So what they'll do is they'll have a Tinder profile. I've never been on Tinder in my life, right? Don't do dating sites. So it was kind of embarrassing. I thought, if someone's seen this, holy shit, it makes me cringe a little bit. So there was fake Tinder accounts. I don't know how many, but there was this one that was coming up all the time. Fake Tinder account. My photographs all over it, saying that I was this US Air Force. I was in some US naval base or Air Force base. So then started befriending women on this dating site. Then what would happen was I only know this because of the story that these women would tell me, because I tried to do what I could to prevent it, but you're kind of fighting a losing battle with it. So this first woman, I always remember this poor woman in New Zealand. She was saying, oh my God, it's really you. I've fallen in love with fake version of you for the last 4 months. So straight away I'm feeling really bad, because I'm like, this poor woman. And the sad part about it is that there had been money extorted, like thousands of dollars. And it was like a real life Tinder swindler. So this happened many times. Fake profile comes up on Instagram. I'm setting a fake profile from Instagram. I'm showing a fake profile from Tinder. And for anyone who comes across this, same name, by the way, back then, it was a couple of years ago now, but it was a profile called Marcus Williams. I always remember that because it was in my face all the time at one point. It got even worse than that. So to make it seem more legit, they started a fake Instagram for my daughter's account, Ava Williams. And there was posts up there like, Happy Father's Day, Dad, from me and Billy. And it makes you feel sick, because you think, these weirdos, I've got pictures of my kids and they're like, displaying them on the internet at their own free will. Hence why now I have a private Instagram account that I only add people to that who I personally know. I think you're on there as well, aren't you? Yeah.
I am. Yep.
I personally know, or they could call me or text me on my phone. You know, people who I genuinely know in real life are who I have on there. Otherwise, I don't let anyone in. So I only post pictures of my kids in that private account because it's private. And my business account now, I mostly keep my family stuff off of there, my private life off of there. But yeah, they go to extreme levels to do this, and this went on for some time. You know, so on one hand, I'm thinking, kind of feel complimented that they want to use my picture to fake a profile account because I think it's going to draw women in. For some reason, you think, okay, that kind of rubs my ego in the right way, but at the same time, you think, yeah.
What was it? What was the profile pic? Was it you when you're cut down for a show or something, all ripped?
Well, you know what? It wasn't actually. It was very recent pictures. Obviously,
All right.
better with age. That's the
Yeah.
message I take from it anyway.
Yeah. I think like fine wine.
Yeah, exactly.
Like fine wine. Yeah. It's funny because I, you know, it's very difficult to build I take my hat off to you and Mike and all these other guys who get the big followings, and because it's very hard. But then again, I am pretty rubbish at it. But yeah, but you go and do stuff pretty much every day. I don't. I guess that's why I'm not tricking the algorithm my way. But maybe I should start. But I went on X.
Yeah.
I started on X, and I don't know. You get this feeling that it's going to be a big old platform again, really big, maybe even the biggest, because you can do what you want, and you'll be able to put up your videos. I could be able to put the podcast videos up there, but I have to get the verification, the check mark, which is about, I think it's about $70 for the year. I think
it's worth it, really. I mean, people complain
probably
about
is
getting from it. You know, you're paying for a service.
probably is. Yeah, I was just wondering if you'd thought about using X more, because then you can't really get nuked for stuff you say,
yeah,
unless you're saying some really outrageous stuff.
Yeah.
And you just don't know what you know. I could have said something in the past that was absolutely fine at the time, and then they say that's not good. You can't do that. You're getting banned. And I don't really have the energy. Yeah, can you imagine the ball ache of having to go and, well, you had to go and start again. But yeah, it's so annoying, so weird. Anyway,
I mean, I've got this kind of love-hate relationship. I see social media as a necessary evil. Like my private Instagram, I quite enjoy that because I only post stuff in there that I want to share with friends and family. That's just the way that I guess you should use social media as a personal, from a personal use perspective, right? I hardly really go there, check it out, but and I only follow those who follow me. I only follow back who follow me, so it's very much a quid pro quo type of setup with that. With my business Instagram, I tend not to follow that many people.
Yeah, I get really attractive girls with nice bums trying to be my friend on Instagram.
No, again, a reflection of how well you've aged.
I think they're bots. I suspect they're probably bots.
Maybe,
but
who knows?
Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure. In fact, I'm certain. There we go. But how's it going with the Modern Warrior project? What's changed?
What's changed? This has just evolved in a way that I've always been one of those people. Like, I was talking about this yesterday. In fact, no, it was this morning. I was talking about it to one of the guys, actually, very early this morning. When you roll anything out, like let's say it's your podcast or a new business, there's two schools of thought. There's the one school of thought that is, stop being a perfectionist, just set it up, roll it out, tweak it as you go. Otherwise, you'll forever be waiting for the perfect time. And then, on the other hand, you've got someone who starts it and is always tinkering with something before they even tell someone about it because they think it's not perfect yet, which it never will be. You're always going to want to change things. Somewhere between those 2 points, there's a sweet spot where you go, right, it can't be shit. It needs to be something you're not going to be embarrassed about or regret pretty quickly or cringe about severely a bit later on, even though that's probably not a hugely dramatic problem. But you don't want to be making a mistake by rolling something out that's crap and then just giving yourself a headache because you can't then fix what's already too shit to do anything about, right? So there's there's a sweet spot there where you have to get it to a point where you go, yeah, this is pretty decent. I'm gonna roll this out there, and I will just tweak it as I go, and that's just the nature of the business. So that's always what I'm doing. And I guess I've always leaned more towards the side of slow and steady wins the race. Don't rush anything, because there is a very gung-ho approach, especially in the coaching industry, from coaching mentors, mastermind groups. They're all very much in a hurry to just roll out shit. And then what you end up doing is you get young coaches plagiarizing and copying someone who they might look up to and trying to be them, and that's not authentic. So then it doesn't last and ends up just stressing them out, because lack of authenticity coming from yourself will be the biggest fucking stressor, because you know you're being a faker. So that's something I've seen quite a lot with people. And then you go on mastermind calls because you're in the same business mentorship, and then people are fucking crying on Zoom calls because they feel like they're not living within their true values, for example, right? So I think that you've got to be professional. You've got to be a perfectionist to a point, but you have to get out there. So I guess from where I am at the moment with the Modern Warrior project, if I look back 3 years ago, my 3-year vision from then till now was bigger. So would I say that I've not achieved some of the things that I set out to achieve from the get-go? Yes. Do I also think that's a good thing? Also yes, because I think that if I'd done certain things at in the timeline, at the point in time where I had predicted or projected that, then I might have looked back and gone, I wish I hadn't done that yet, because it'd be a better time now to do it. So that's one of those things. You've got to go with your gut. You have to do what you feel is genuinely right at the time. Make your own mind up. I think that a big thing with this is that you got to know yourself well enough that you can make your own decisions from your own heart, knowing it's the right thing to do, rather than just questioning yourself all the time or always seeking validation or permission from others, which is what a lot of people do as well.
It's very true. It's very true. I still think when we had a chat back in the summer, in fact, we've been talking about it for probably more than a year, about bringing, because you do events. Well, not really, you wouldn't call it an event.
Yeah, event.
Let's call it a camp, an event, whatever. So you take the guys away and you'll do something pretty cool, like Fan Dance in Wales, which is the string of big hills in Wales where the special forces do their selection process. And you did the West Highland Way, which is it? I can't remember, 75 miles or something, is it?
96.
96, there you go. I still think you should come and see me and do one of those out here in the Alps.
We're going to do that. That will happen.
Good, because I've got some great ideas. A friend of mine, there's actually a good friend of mine here who's from Glasgow. And I got him into guns, and now he's all in. And we would go camping, and we take my boy up, and we'll go camping, and we'll just, because wild camping in Scotland, I think it's fine, and in Britain you can camp pretty much anywhere, as long as if there's any qualms, you have to ask permission. But around in most of Europe, you can't just camp anywhere you want. But there are a few places where you can, and or it's no one really cares. Put it that way. So we go up, and it's 1,600 something meters, so it's high up. The views are insane, and there's quite a lot of people go there because there's a picnic. There's some like benches, you can have a picnic. There are toilets, but there's nothing else. There's no fresh water, as in drinking water. But you go up there, you carry the water up, take some stakes, build a big fire, and it gets cold at nights. But you got a huge fire. We're all sitting around the fire, and it's ace. It's so much fun, and you forget. We've talked about this before, but just being out, because your phone doesn't work, or doesn't work very well, so it's pointless. And you just talk, sit around the fire, tell stories, and it's like the old days. It's a lot to it. There's an awful lot to it, and I think we could do something really cool around here. But we've talked about that. So
we'll do. There's a very good chance that it'll be next year.
All right.
Because the reason being, when you say how is the Modern Warrior project going and what's changed, I would say what's changing is the need for more in-person meetups.
Yeah.
And that's from two angles. One, because I think that it would be great for the guys that join the project, because there'll be more opportunity then for people to attend one of them rather than saying, right, we're going to have 2 main events a year, and you attend one of them. Some guys are overseas. So one of the guys, in fact, who was over like the other week, he's been over twice in the last 12 months, the last 2 Septembers for events from Canada.
That's a cool. That guy's pretty cool, eh?
Yeah, really cool. Yeah, great guy. And so the effort will be there, but the more options that we have, it gives people more opportunity to attend whichever one they can get to. It doesn't need to be like a numbers thing. It's just a case of, having enough events in place so that it's financially viable and it's available on the calendar for everyone gets a stab. And the other reason is because for me personally, I think that's what I'm missing at the moment, because again, a conversation I had this morning, working from home is great. Like working from your own home office or your house or flitting about cafes and being a digital nomad to a point is okay. But in all honesty, I wasn't put on this earth to sit behind a fucking laptop. I love having conversations like this. This is the kind of stuff I really enjoy, like connecting, even though it's remotely, but you're still having a conversation with someone, which I love that. So I love the coaching aspect, even if it's from a digital perspective. So doing live Zoom calls, presentations, mastermind sessions, but the day-to-day stuff, working on a laptop, isn't really, it's never been something I've really looked forward to on a daily basis. So, but it has to be done. Right? There's an element of that you have to do. And not only that, it's the lack of human connection, the lack of spending time around others, going to work, having a team around you. You do miss that. And a lot of the guys miss that because there's a lot of guys work from home. So a lot of people feel very isolated, and it comes with its challenges. And so I think by having a community that's both online and in person, that has the availability and the option to attend and be around like-minded men who are on this similar path, is such a powerful thing. Because when we met up in Ireland the other week, there's only seven of us made that. But when we were there, yeah, the event was great. What you would think was like the best thing was almost like the sideshow. So running along the coast, the Giant's Causeway coast in Northern Ireland, it was beautiful. But in the aftermath of the event, coming back, the bits that I remembered was the time that I spent around the guys, the sociable side of it, as in just shooting the shit, sat in the house. We went and we rented a house over there. We just sat in the kitchen, drinking tea, because like these events have become very much non-alcoholic, not by compulsory means. I'm talking about alcohol is just not a thing that we center any energy around these days. That's not to say that a couple of guys don't have, the odd Guinness or whatnot, but that's fine, right? But we sat around the kitchen drinking cups of tea, shooting the shit, and thought this is exactly what guys need. That sort of that campfire chat, the connection. We need that. As it inspires us, it gives us that fuel that we need to move forward. And I think that's what's missing most of the
It's
time.
like therapy, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it's like an organic sense of therapy.
Yeah, and you're out there. There's no distractions, no TV, just a big roaring campfire, and you're sitting around it.
Yeah.
And then eventually it's like, all right, let's go to bed. And then you wake up the next day and the sun's shining, the view's great. Make a cup of tea, make a cup of coffee.
It's
like
a reset.
It's so beneficial.
It's like you get these hard reset. I was thinking about this actually because, another client of mine, I was talking to the other week, we were talking about a lot of this stuff. And when it comes to what I do with the Modern Warrior Project, like, obviously it's a very organic, one at a time joins that program. So it's an interview process. We take people on who are going to be a good fit for the program, etc. And it grows over time. But there's no sort of hard reset event first. So you get these events that are out there. You can go and do like a fucking a blood style beasting session for 3 days where you get your fucking ass kicked and beasted the shit out of you, right? So you get like ex-military guys shouting at you and you say, "This is going to change. This event's going to change your life." Fucking doesn't. Is the news flash? It doesn't. It doesn't matter what you do in that 3-day period. You do not change your life in 3 days. You don't change. You can get the insight. You can get that can be like the spark plugs to the future. It can elicit change, but it doesn't create the change in itself. And I think there's miscommunication in that, because you get all these very militant style programs, which I kind of squirm at, if I'm being honest with you. People have said to me in the past, "Would you not do anything like that?" I was like, "Would I fuck?" Why? Because I've got a more mature approach to things. It does not work. That is designed for people who are looking for a silver bullet. It's like the Tony Robbins event of the military style stuff. And they're great as well, but it was the same as Tony Robbins events. I used to work at those events, and you would see the difference between people. Like, if that's your cup of tea and that's something you think, yep, that's looking like something I want to do, brilliant. But the work is not done at the event. You learn strategies to think differently at an event like that. Then you have to go on, live your life, practicing those things daily. Same with Ecuador, going to an ayahuasca retreat, or doing anything from that perspective. If you go to psilocybin retreats, anything that's psychedelic based, this can be life changing. Yeah, it can be, but only if you then take the lessons and then go back and live your daily life, putting into practice the things that you now know. It's like you don't go to a boot camp for 3 days and get beasted, and then you're fit for the rest of your life. You've just had an insight into how hard you can maybe work. So anyway, the point being, with the Modern Warrior Project, I thought, so we come up with this assumption that, or this decision, should I say, that all these hard reset style events, 3 days, you turn up, you spend 3 days getting thrashed, and then you go back to your life, and there's no follow-on. There's no accountability. There's no continuation. Yet with my program, there's no hard reset. There's just the follow-on. So it's like, you can take one of those weekends and take the follow-on part and bolt them together, and you have the whole thing. But I would say, instead of doing a hard reset, you need more of a hard and a soft reset. You need a bit of both. You need like the warrior sage. The terminology I use inside the program is, I use the warrior and the theory of the warrior and the sage. And if you think about this, like, you're living your daily life like this in the middle. So imagine you get 3 tiers, right? 3 levels. In the middle is where you live your life and do the stuff that you got to do to perform in your business, your family, your social life. Just living your life, right? Having fun, getting the best out of yourself. That's that middle tier. Then you got the upper level, the upper tier, which is it represents the warrior, which is upregulation of the nervous system. So that's when you're doing all the push stuff. You're pushing, you're going to the gym, you're lifting weights, you're going for your runs, you're doing ultra focused work with something in work, or you're doing a presentation, you're being a leader. But you're essentially pushing yourself. And especially when it comes to the physical side of things, it's when you're looking after your physical body. You are pushing the boundaries of resistance training or anything else, any other modality that you push yourself in. But it's when you're training yourself by pushing yourself outside your comfort zone to be fitter, stronger, faster, better. Then you've got the bottom tier, which is the sage. That represents the sage, which is like the down regulation of the nervous system, where you reflect and gain wisdom and process your thoughts. You meditate, you practice mindfulness, you might do some recovery practices like sauna, ice baths, all the trendy stuff that's about these days for optimizing human performance. But that is the down regulation, the recovery, the sleep, all the things that you need to recover. And that weaponizes you for being better in that upper tier. You put those together, you're living optimal in that middle ground. Makes sense? So that's the way that I convey it, in a way that makes a lot of sense to guys who think, what is this all about? Because if we're doing that, we're living optimally, we're going to be happy, we're going to be fulfilled, and all the rest of it. It's going to look after itself that way.
Yeah, I've having been a victim of beasting, as we were, especially yourself. But it works. Yeah, as you say, it works to an extent. And would I want to go and do it again? No. There are aspects I did enjoy, but what do you learn really? I don't know if you learn all that much. I think you could do it in a much more progressive way without being, shouted at and all that kind of thing. So the way, like I said before, about how I've got myself back into training properly is it's a soft target. I will get there. I know I will get there. You just have to keep doing it every day and you'll get there. And that's as simple as that. But I know when I go to the gym, I can do it at home. I can do it in a hotel. I can do it at home if I just can't get to the gym. That's no big deal. If I go to the gym and if I do these things, I do the stretching, then I will go to the big weights and start doing the deadlifts and the squats and what have you. And there's all these different kind of there's always new toys in the gym to play with. So you're going there and let's say I do an hour there, I'm not really breaking a sweat, but I can feel it the next day, so you don't really have to go and butcher yourself. But I think I think also and I want to ask you, because you're a pro at this as well, about the lifting and strength building and what have you. But the other aspect, which I've really started to do a lot of basically since last week, is because I try to meditate, but monkey mind takes over, and it's very hard for me to actually to try and keep a blank mind. It's very difficult. Always has been. But I had a breakthrough last week, and now I'm getting better at it. So and that's also I find very, very useful. And I do it when I go to sleep. At night I will do a lying down meditation. But mainly I go out into the woods, into the forest, and I'll find a quiet spot and sit down so that nobody can see me and thinks I'm daft. And I'll sit there for half an hour and just listen to the wind and the trees and the birds singing and that kind of thing. And you feel fantastic afterwards. And I think that's just as important. And it's interesting you say that, because I've recently discovered just how important that putting the three of it together is: your regular life, an exercise program of some description. And it's like I say, I do sports. I play football maybe once or twice a week. I do a lot of walking. You don't have to go out and run 10 miles. You don't have to do anything. The way I see it, I have friends who do ultra marathons, guys are older than me, and they are insanely fit. But, I don't see, for me, I just don't, it's not me.
What do you want out of it? This is the thing. You can only ask.
You've got to enjoy it.
You've got to enjoy it. But this is the thing, is that when you get your thought process and your self-awareness to a deeper level, and you understand yourself, then a lot of the questions you answer very quickly when they pop up. Because let's face it, going back to your first point about the lifting side of things. So you go into the gym and you're one of those people who cannot go on half tilt. You have to go full tilt. And no matter what your goals are, how old you are, what aspirations you have in life, for some reason, making yourself physically sick on leg day just gets you fucking going. It just is how you tick. That's sometimes, especially with the competitive bodybuilder guys, who a typical thing on a weekly basis was always throw up on leg day, right? Training to the point where you are physically sick, right? It's fucking horrible. I remember going into some leg days feeling slightly nervous about what was to come, because you're going to feel like shit at the end of it. You're not going to feel like you want to eat. You're going to have a headache. You're going to physically throw up. It just isn't a nice feeling. But for some reason, that torture, that pain is part of the process of going to that dark place, because that's where you truly believe that the work is really done. So the theory there is that, yeah, you might not be training legs every day, but when you do train them, you make it count. And it's because of that sheer intensity that elicits things like stimulus of growth, as long as everything else is taken care of, as in rest, recovery, diet, and all the rest of it. But in some people's minds, especially if you're doing something to a competitive level, like take bodybuilding as an example, you've got to stand on stage in your pants and be subjectively judged by a panel of people wearing blazers who are usually experienced bodybuilders in their own right from previous years gone by. So it's not like a bunch of fat bastards judging a gymnast who moves her foot at the end and she's like, that Billy Connolly sketch, her foot moved.
Yeah.
Of course it fucking moved. But so you have respect for those who are judging you. It's basically like the question, the word judging you, but that's what it is. So when you're stood up there, you're then in your own mind asking yourself, you've got to then live with the fact that if you don't place or you don't win, happens, right? Because you can only be as good as you can be. But if you could stand there placing last, knowing in your mind that you have put every single thing possible into your prep and you could not have done any more, then you can look at yourself in the mirror with pride. If you come second out of 20 people and you missed a few meals, monged it a few times in your training, and it's splitting hairs between you and another guy, you're going to question that and go, if I hadn't missed those meals, if I'd eaten chicken instead of beef that day, if I'd have eaten sprouts instead of cabbage, it's like, would I have? I mean, that's really this extreme levels, but this is the kind of shit that comes into your mind. That's why something like bodybuilding is such an extreme approach, because it's details upon details.
It's interesting. It's so interesting when you talk about this, because clearly you're one of these guys, an all or nothing kind of guy, because I know the regular army wasn't tough enough for you, so you want to go and do the special forces aspect, which is commendable. But then you see it, you can see by seeing your progression through life, is that it's one thing to the next, and you're very focused, and it's very commendable. But you seem to have balanced it out now with a bit of introspection, shall we say, and that you can look inside and say, well, what am I? And I asked this to an extreme runner, ultra marathon runner, and he does all sorts of different things. So what is it you're? I actually said, what is it you're running from? And he said, that's a great question. What is it? Because when he did all the peaks in Switzerland above 4,000 meters, which is no joke, and he did it in a year and a half or something, which is it is very impressive, because it takes a high degree of technical skill to get up a lot of these, like the Matterhorn and things like that, and you just wonder, is it you're always chasing something. And I think you'll probably agree with me, when you have a goal set, when you actually achieve that goal, you think, well, what was all the fuss about? I don't really feel any different. In fact, what's my next challenge? And that's this friend of mine taking it to extreme, but that's what he wants to do. So, good for him. Off you go. But I think it takes a bit of balance, and I think it takes, from my experience, just starting off easy, because like you, I used to go there and kill myself the first day in the gym and then hurt. And then you don't go back for a couple of days, and then, and then it's stupid. But by doing it little by little, then you build up. And then I will build up to start doing other stuff, because that's just how it goes. But it's not, there is that aspect of discipline, which I think is good. It's ultimate self-love for your body. I think we could all agree with that. Self-love, I think, is important in that respect. But also it's finding something else to believe in, is through meditation, or walking in the woods, going for a walk in the forest for an hour if you're stressed out, or even if you're not stressed out. But I guarantee you'll feel better afterwards, right? That's a given. And so finding the balance of pushing yourself, even if it's just a little bit, but also finding the more, help me out, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say spiritual, because I don't like that word.
Sometimes you just say it how it is, because people will get it. It's like saying, if someone says, what do you do? And I say, oh, I'm a life coach. I hate, it's such a wanky term, life coach.
It is.
But it's like, it's no different to me being in the gym with someone going, right, okay, if you just retract and depress your scapula, and someone's never been in the gym before, they don't have any clue about human anatomy, but because I know the words, I'm going to say that way. Yeah. Instead of saying, right? See this, the bit your shoulder blade, the bit that sticks out, right? Move that back and down a little bit. It's going to be understandable to them. So, saying like from a spiritual sense, people can take that how they want, and the people who take it in a way that's are probably the ones that need to do the work.
Exactly.
You know,
As
so,
as I discovered myself.
yeah, we've all
I
been
used
there.
to be that guy.
We had this conversation a few weeks ago that turned into a bit of a riot, bit of a scream on a Zoom call. A bunch of guys in their 40s and 50s, most of them taking the fucking piss out of me. But that's when I realised that I'd actually exercised my ego in a sense that it was my friend and not my enemy anymore, because I took it well.
Yeah.
But and that was related to wanky words, how they were described, right? Now, anyway, but I did share my points on that, which were similar to what I've just said, which is maybe you need to do the work. If you're thinking about this in an egotistical way, that you're letting it bother you, then maybe that's where you need to do some work in yourself. But anyway, getting to the point where you said you were just talking about, that balance between, are you running away from something? Are you just torturing yourself? What is it a bad thing that you should like completely thrash yourself or aspire to achieve extreme feats of endurance or whatever? Right now, again, there are different ways to looking at that, and the only person that can really answer the questions is the self. And I think people should be slow to judge that until they really understand the person and their mindset. For a lot of people, something like the gym, and we saw this in lockdown, something like going to the gym. And I remember a good friend of mine, Tom, who you've probably received a nutrition plan from in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Tom talking about his gym. He always opens his gym on Christmas Day, right? And he always gets the two teams, the two camps are always commenting and sharing their opinion. The one camp will go, "This is a great idea. I'm so glad that someone's doing something for the community on the day like Christmas, because not everyone has a family. People maybe find that as their place of sanctuary to connect with people, and it's just that little brick in the wall for that day of the year they might struggle otherwise." And the other side, you go, all these people, these fucking saddos going to the gym on Christmas Day, take a day off, enjoy your dinner, spend time with your family. Very, very narrow-minded approach. So I used to come from an angle of take a day off, enjoy yourself, don't be a sad bastard. Hence why we never opened the gym on Christmas Day. I never opened my gym on Christmas Day purely because I did want to spend time with my family, and also I didn't want to expect any member of staff to come in and open the gym on Christmas Day. If I was going to do it, it would have to be myself, and I just wasn't prepared to make that sacrifice because my kids come first, right? My family comes first. However, I adopted the mindset of massive respect for Tom and others who do the same, because in their mind, they say, look, for some people, they come to the gym on the day of Christmas Day. It's the only people they're going to connect with the whole day. And then they're going home to have Christmas Day by themselves because they don't have a family. Which I thought, you know what, when you think about it like that, it's different. So I guess my point being, don't criticize what you don't understand.
Yeah.
And from the perspective of how hard you should push yourself in the gym, what are you doing it for? I guess if you're just mindlessly running at a wall the same fucking speed every single time for an aimless reason, if there's no result in there, and it does come down to self-torture, then maybe you do have to be exercising a bit more self-love and going, you know what? What's the outcome with all this? What am I doing this for? Is this making me a better person? Am I just running away from something? Only the self can answer that question. But if someone is coming from an angle of purely results focused, so let's say again it's a bodybuilder or a powerlifter trying to get strong, and it's going to be from a competitive sense, or it might just be a personal goal, right? But let's take, because I've experienced life as a bodybuilder, so I can talk from that angle. For me, it was half about the result, but it was really more about who I had to become in the process to get there. I know that sounds a bit cliche, but when you slice it up and you realize that the different aspects of being a bodybuilder, for example, you get don't know how many meals you have to eat in a 4-month prep, for example, right? And obviously it's not just a prep phase; it's year round, it's perpetual. If you want continued progress, but let's say a contest prep phase was like 4 months, or for that 4 months, you're trying not to ever miss a meal. You're trying to sleep as best you can. You're trying to train hard and make sure you train when you should train every single time until the day of the show. You're trying to do everything right. So you could just go in and blitz yourself every single time and have a really strict diet from day one all the way through. That's not going to achieve a good result. So you can really torture yourself from day dot all the way up to a show. It's going to elicit a bad result because you're going to be overtrained, over dieted, probably not look very good. Whereas if you come from the angle of train hard but train smart, recover well, eat in a calculated fashion where you're really thinking about things like macronutrient profile, nutrient timing, calories, all the rest of it, then you're going to optimize the result by not just running at the fucking wall as fast as you can. Right? So that's when people like coaches come in handy, because they can be that third eye, they can be that guide that someone really needs. And again, with that in itself, with using a coach for something like bodybuilding, some of the old school guys will be like, oh, if you're a mechanic, you don't take your fucking car to another mechanic to fix your car. You do it yourself. Well, yeah, but it's kind of different, right? Because when you're dieting hard, your mind starts to go. You don't see what everyone else sees. You can be overly critical and start to make bad decisions that don't elicit the best results. So, having a really good coach is a good way of keeping that in track. So for me, when I did bodybuilding, it was about the accolades, because it wasn't about receiving a plastic trophy, because I've got all them in storage somewhere. I don't even have them displayed anywhere, right? That's not because I don't like them, it's just because I don't have anywhere to fucking put them. But there was always a bit of an anticlimax with that. So the win was very short lived. So if I won most of my shows, actually, I did really well as a bodybuilder. But when I won most of my shows, there was always like a short lived celebratory moment where I thought, yeah, that was good. I feel good about that. But then it was like, the now what? And now what am I going to do? What do I have to aim for now? What do I prep for? There's nothing in the near future. Therefore, I feel a bit lost again. So I think peeling the layers back and looking back retrospectively from when I left the army, all through my bodybuilding career till I left bodybuilding and started going into more sort of personal development stuff about 10 years ago. I think that the bodybuilding was a great thing for me, because it gave me that structure. And this is getting to my point where a lot of people need. They need routine, they need structure, they need certainty of what they're going to be doing. And I think when I left the army, there was loads of uncertainty. It's all I knew. So when I left, bodybuilding took the form of it's not my daughter will get that. Bodybuilding took the form of structure, discipline, direction, clarity, all these things that you need in life to keep you motivated, to keep you inspired, to keep you feeling like you matter in some way. So yeah, the bodybuilding side of things was really interesting, but getting, sort of making my point here about, at what extreme level do you do something to? Is it going to be purely because you are mentally struggling, therefore when you go out running and do these extreme things, it's kind of like your sanctuary and it's your place of, giving you direction and solitude, or whatever it is that you get from that. But obviously that's coupled with potentially needing to deal with some dark shit that you might not have dealt with properly, that therefore you're constantly running from something. But it can be a crutch that can keep someone going whilst to deal with other stuff and do the deep work. On the other hand, if you really want the best result, and it's all, and you're completely, comfortable in your life, happy with your state of mind and all that, if it's about performance, if it's about getting the best result, then there are more than one way to skin a cat. I hate that term, actually. I don't like the thought of skinning a cat. But any vegans watching, I'm not pro skinning cats. But what I mean is, there are smart approaches where you can do things in a fashion that is going to elicit the best result. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's what it has to be, sort of balanced.
Yeah, I started. I actually started writing a schedule very recently, exactly, and actually with a timetable as opposed to a list of things to do. It's when it was done, when start finished, and it's basic stuff. But that is very useful to me. And I look at it, and it's like talk about your non-negotiables we talked about before, is to see it, and it doesn't take much. Like, okay, I've got this, just basically having a written down schedule, and God, it's so useful. And for instance, I didn't do one for today, and I spent the morning faffing around before this, and didn't get the things done I wanted to do. And it's just that is how it works. And if I don't do it, that's the way it goes. So it's interesting. So, getting on a bit. I've got about 15 minutes, and I have to split, I'm afraid. But I was going to say, since we did this the podcast, the last one was number 91. When you went to Ecuador, and you did a full-on reset retreat on ayahuasca and San Pedro mushrooms, was it? 10 days.
So it comes to
San Pedro cactus, yeah. And 10 days in the jungle of Ecuador. And you listen to that one, because that's one of my favorite podcasts of all time I've done. In fact, not just because it's my one, but of all the podcasts I've listened to, I thought it was really interesting. And how has it been since you got back? Because I have another friend we talked about in that one as well, who did a similar thing in Mexico. And he said, that's almost the easy bit. The hard bit is to practice or maintain and keep working upon yourself to improve on the lesson, or use the lessons that you learned to then improve and, find yourself in a higher level of consciousness, put it that way.
And this is a really interesting. I wish we had more time, because I could really into a rabbit hole with my theory on this.
We could probably push it.
Yeah, but yeah, there are certain caveats, I would say, with the whole spiritual journey, doing ayahuasca or such medicines. I think when you look at the simple fact of we are born who we're supposed to be as a blank canvas, and I think we spend the rest of our lives trying to figure out who the fuck that is. Some ways, because we've all got our uncertainties, and there's not many people who you would find who can authentically say, I am completely and utterly happy with who I am, what I'm doing, where I'm going, and everything's just like riddled with certainty, because again, that's not balanced. The law of the universe is that we need balance of dark and light, yin and yang. You need uncertainty. Certainty and fear are part of life. So I think that something like fear, for example, stop seeing fear as a barrier to success. See it as a fact of life. It's just going to be there. It's how you deal with it, right? So when it comes to the whole, well, from my perspective anyway, I can speak from my own experience and how it all started, what happened between when it started through when we spoke last, and from when we spoke last in the last podcast to now. There's been twists and turns. So I think when it comes to, like you said earlier, the word spiritual, for example, how do you accept that? How do you translate that in your mind? What does it mean to you? To some people, it'll mean some weirdo with fucking dreadlocks and a tie-dye t-shirt, not doing much with life, but just sat around, getting high in LSD and speaking shit. Right? That's just, in some people's minds, that's what that means.
Yeah, a lot of people, I think probably most people's minds.
And there are people like that. And I think that's where it can go wrong. That's where it can go wrong. You can just end up becoming a hippie weirdo that doesn't have a grip in reality on the plane that we're currently living in. Like, when you think about it, we are physical, we're in a physical body, we're spiritual beings in a physical body, having an experience from when we're born to when we die, right? And on this planet, in this life. So I think there are the people that just get to a point in life and then they start on a journey and then are constantly trying to escape it. Instead of practicing certain things to connect with the higher self, to connect with the divine, however you want to describe it, to then live in a better self in the physical body we're in. So be a good person and have a good life, because this is an experience, right? You don't go on a roller coaster, then put headphones in and shut your eyes and pretend it's not happening, right? You experience the ride and you enjoy it, and then when it's over, it's like, fuck, that was good, right? Or that was scary, whatever it was. But you have an experience of the ride. You don't go on the ride to then not ride the ride. So I think this is where it can go wrong, is that people become ultra spiritual, so to speak, and use inverted commas, because in a way that's not so healthy, and they can end up just turning into spiritual narcissists who just preach shit all day long and tell everybody what they should be doing. You know, that's not good. And then there's the good side of the spiritual journey, which is about introspection, getting to know yourself, getting to understand your own troubles that you've experienced through your life, trying to heal those traumas you might have had from when you were a kid all the way through your life, trying to clear your stagnant energy. That's what it's really about. So that it's really about getting the science and the spirituality balanced and connected. I think it's about understanding things from a very practical side, from a very practical perspective. When you think of things like quantum physics, you know, there's a lot of study there now, obviously, hell of a lot of studies in that can prove things scientifically. So when you can marry that with what you truly believe, then you've got something that works in harmony. When it's just purely belief, like, let's say, you know, I'm not going to go into things like religion, but there are certain things that people just believe because they believe it, without any sort of backing or reasoning or proof that it could be the truth, right? It's just something they believe. But so I think that you have to have either an evidential backing to support what you believe in, or you have to have experienced something that can then allow you to make your own mind up and say, you know what, this is undeniable. This is genuinely what I think is real. So if you look at the subject of psychedelics, let's say a really powerful, potent psychedelic like DMT, ayahuasca, which is obviously kind of the same thing in a different form. But if you look at something like Bufo, the 5-MeO DMT, when you really fucking blast, I've never tried that, but people blast off, right?
I know
Really,
people who have done it.
yeah, and I do as well, and it sounds pretty insane. But even when you just look at things like DMT, I've done DMT. You've got the ego, which you need, and then you've got the spiritual side of your being that can sort of argue sometimes. So your ego is saying, maybe this is just your brain. Maybe the visuals you see and the things you imagine is just part of your memory, and it's the same as when you dream. You imagine stuff that's maybe happened or you've experienced in life already, or things that you might have subconsciously imagined that are now coming to the forefront. So you think, or are they spiritual beings that you do connect with? No one really knows the answer, is the truth, right? Let's face it. No one can produce something that goes, this is absolutely fact. A lot of it's down to interpretation of the person or people who have experienced something metaphysical. And then you have to make your own mind up whether that is real or a dream state or whatever. And I guess only time will tell. Experience, getting to a point where you can achieve a higher level of consciousness, where you can go deeper into these things. And what I've found is that, from my opinion, what I really think is that, yeah, there's a scientific side of things, which is everything is energy, which I think that's just really obvious, is that everything in the universe, however big it is energy. Everything's made up of energy. It's as simple as that. When you experience something that is like metaphysical under the influence of like a hallucinogenic psychedelic medicine, then when you realize that some of the things you experience are just too detailed to be like some sort of imagination imaginary thought in your mind. I think that's where there's the questions for me. It's like, how could I have ever seen that? And when it relates to things that you might have seen in geometric patterns or ancient civilizations, some of this shit's really detailed. Some of the stuff is so clear, and the messages are so profound that you get to a point where you go, there has to be something else. There has to be something more powerful in control of this outside of the physical body. It's just undeniable at that stage. But again, there's still loads of questions around it. Like, I guess that's what the journey's all about. But I think you have to keep a handle on yourself, on your ego. You need your ego. I think people that say you've got to dissolve your ego, yeah, you have to have like ego death experiences and stuff, but you can't completely get rid of the ego, otherwise you wouldn't be able to live in this world. You couldn't operate, you couldn't function. So you need a job, you need to earn money, you need to, think about your future investments. You need physical stuff, practical stuff. You need material. It is something that you have to balance again. So I think this is where the experience, I think, the more you do it, the more you learn in life in general. You start to realize that you have to keep control of your own identity, your own self that has got you through life to this point, because this is who you are. But then you got to accept and appreciate the fact that there's also the other side of you, which is the spiritual side, the being side that will continue to live on potentially. That is about having the respect and the connection with that to make you a better person in the physical world. I think that's kind of my theory on that. I don't know if you any other sort of...
No, I agree. And I've met quite a few people who, I think it's pretty hard to abuse psychedelics. For me, certainly for me anyway. I can't really... I've done it in social circumstances, but it's something I don't do nowadays. It's too real. You know what I mean? It's just not...
Yeah.
You need to be...
It's not to be fucked with.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I don't do it very often, but sometimes, caution to the wind and all that. And it's always unforgettable. Put it that way. It's always unforgettable. You come away learning something. But in that respect, what you said is, I think people see it as like, oh, I've got this, I should go and do that, and then I'll be healed, and I'll be a better person. And I just fundamentally disagree with that. It might it might give you like you said, it gives you a vision, a glimpse at the other side. So let's call it that. But it gives you a glimpse of how things could be, and then you use that as a force of good for your life. But I think going in there thinking that I'll do this, and then my childhood trauma or whatever it is, my PTSD is I think it's a fool's errand. And I'm not saying I know a lot of people who've had a lot of very beneficial effects from it, a lot, but they're also the people who are willing to put the work in after and take the lessons they've learned about how to live your life, how to maybe eat, just do whatever you need to do in order to maintain this progression or keep moving on up the ladder, up the hill, or whatever you want to call it. And I think most people don't do that. I think in the same way that most people don't look after themselves. But what I do notice, Lindsay, is that whereas maybe even just a couple of years ago, people wouldn't talk to me. We first spoke about it and you said, have you ever done, before you'd even done it, I think, and have you ever done it? And I said, yeah. And you were quite surprised. But now I speak to people about, consciousness, what's it all for? What is the point of this experience? I get it. We're here for an experience, but, sometimes feels a bit rough. And is that the whole point? Is that we just come here have an experience and that's part of our progression? I don't know. That also seems a bit like, it doesn't seem logical to me. Do you know? It doesn't seem like it's like a treadmill again. You're running against the wall. What is it? What's the whole point? I think, that's the big question. And you wonder if it's just, you just use the 10 Commandments. you know, like the bullet points from the Bible, and you live your life by them, and do you live a good, happy life? You probably wouldn't go far wrong as a framework, but is that going to lead you to the next level of consciousness? I don't know.
How do you
But
feel? It's like it's like anything. How do you feel when you wake up in the morning? How do you feel when you put your head on the pillow at night? How do you feel most of the time? Are
yeah,
you happy? If you're happy, then sometimes if it's not broken, don't fix it. You're just a happy
yeah,
person. And best of luck to you. If you're genuinely happy, why would you want to change that? Right? So there's so many things to go into with it. Obviously, we will be limited in time, but um,
it's a complicated subject.
when oh, there was something I was going to tap into there when you were saying it.
What was that about?
It wasn't the recreational side of things it was about, because I don't think that's a good idea.
Not using the lessons.
Not using the lessons. I think this is the bit I was going to pick up on. Yeah. So if you think about like the theory people have that you go and do 5-MeO DMT, you go and do an ayahuasca ceremony or retreat, and there's this preconception, probably because of some of the shit that's out there on the internet, because people like to really, people like to make it really sound more extreme as well in some cases, right? So everyone has different experiences. I saw people who had very non-profound experiences, probably because they didn't want to push themselves with it. I was like the fucking all-in guy, right? I was like, give me as much medicine as I can fucking, as I'm allowed.
And you turned into a werewolf.
If I can walk to you, then I'm getting another cup of that, right? So I thought, I'm here, paid, but get my money's worth, right? So no, but I really wanted to, because I trusted it, and I trusted the people. So the shamans will be like, they'll give away their thing. They're just very clever people, right? They know this, like they know their own face. So if they think you've had enough, they'll just tell you. And if they think you can have more, because it's very safe in a controlled environment. So there's this misconception that you go and do ayahuasca, your fucking soul gets ripped out and rinsed out and put back in again, and then you're cured of all your trauma. You're cured of all your procrastination and lack in the world, for want of a better phrase, right? So it's just not the case. It's like you don't go to one of these bud style experiences and then leave with ultimate confidence and you're fucking sorted for the rest of your life, which is what a lot of these things advertise. This event will change your life. I saw this with a fucking an online webinar being advertised recently. This one webinar is going to change your life.
Mm-hmm.
Shut the fuck up. Seriously, why would you even say that? It's just false. And it's a lie, right? And you're giving vulnerable people false promises, right? Because they're too naive to realize that, hey, you've got to just roll up your sleeves and get the fucking work done sometimes. And by the way, when this ayahuasca ceremony is finished and you go back to your normal life, see all the shit that you've learned, you had to start doing that. You've got the insight, you've got the message. Now go and implement. You may have to come back at some point, but you're gonna have to continue this practice. It's about what you do in the daily life that changes to your life, not a cup of medicine that you take on a retreat.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I had some fucking bad experience after that. After my Ecuador, I did some mushroom trips, a couple of hero dose mushroom trips since then. One of them being like 6 G's of mushrooms, right? It was the biggest dose of mushrooms I've taken, and it was a scary experience.
that it was.
The thing is with that, you never know what you're going to get, right? It's like buying a fucking box of chocolates without a label on it. You don't know what they're going to taste like. When you take mushrooms, sometimes you don't know what the fuck is coming. You get, and I was always told, you will always get the medicine will give you what you need, not what you want. But an important part of this, I would say, because recently I did some mushrooms a few weeks ago. I had an amazing experience. And this is the caution. The bit with the caution is that it's just not to be messed around with. Shit can go wrong. People have known to get like psychosis from things like LSD and mushrooms and stuff. It's just not to be disrespected. So I've never taken it in a recreational sense. I've always taken it in a more from a self-healing perspective. And I would always recommend that someone does that under control with someone who knows what they're doing, like a guided ceremony from someone who's very experienced. But me and a couple of mates went up to North Wales, did a hero dose of mushrooms, did everything as properly as we could. You know, they're quite experienced as well. And I had a fucking scary experience, right? And the experience I had was, this is the interesting thing, I had to face something that I didn't want to face. So I had some shit happen when I was a teenager, as in, it was something that tried. I won't go into details because it's kind of fucking personal, but there was something that triggered OCD. I don't know if I spoke to this before. So I had intrusive thought OCD when I was a teenager that I didn't understand for years and years and years, like 2 decades. Didn't tell anyone about it until I was about 30, first time. And even then, when I told someone about it, didn't really know how to put it into words. Couldn't really find the words to explain what I'd gone through. But when I was 15, I had this triggered OCD, which made me feel like I was literally losing my mind. There was disassociation from the self. And it was really scary, inescapable, because you are living in your own mind and it's the one place you can't escape. So I won't go into the details of that because it's pretty fucking deep, but I suffered with this for a couple of years, then joined the army, which then was pretty much the saviour of this whole condition, it was obviously a neurodivergent condition. That coupled with the whole ADHD thing and all that, you know, it was a mixed bag of turmoil. But anyway, I go through my life, use my ego, start on my spiritual journey, go to Ecuador, go through all that. I think I come back with, I've done all the heavy lifting, really, I have. So then I'm just enjoying psychedelics. Now and then I'll do a bit of mushrooms to have a nice experience. Not very often. It's not something I want to do in a hurry again, to be honest. But when I've done a hero dose, which is like 5 grams plus, like this was 6 grams, I had a very frightening experience where I had to relive the mindset of the OCD. So it came back like it. So when I was 15 in the onset, which was suddenly, boom, I was being hit by a freight train, then thinking, what's happening with my mind? What's happening to me? Like, fuck, why am I feeling this way? Well, it happened when I was on mushrooms and I fucking freaked. And the issue with that is when you then resist against letting go on any psychedelic, you're in for a fucking hard time. It's like fasten your seatbelts, Dorothy, and hold on, because this is not going to be fucking quick. It's not going to be easy. So it was like a white knuckle ride, and all it did was I was trying to focus on physical stuff because I didn't want to let it take me where I was going, because I was scared I was never going to be the same person again. I thought I was going to lose my whole identity. I thought I was going to lose my job, my family. I thought I'm going to come out of this a different person that I don't like, and I didn't know who that was or what it looked like. So I was petrified. So I held on and just thought, I've just got to ride this out until it wears off. Spent the next 2 or 3 days feeling really fucking weird about the whole thing, and said to myself, I'm never going to do that again. I'm never doing that ever again. This is my sign that if I was to let go of whatever it was that was trying to take me, I was going to go psychotic. I was going to lose my marbles. And I was going to be like I was going to be walking around Hereford fucking shouting at people in the street. In my mind, right? Now, it wasn't the case, because obviously your mind is hypersensitive and you're very paranoid and all the rest of it, potentially, but you're hypersensitive and intuitive to things when you're obviously on psychedelics. Anyway, kind of long story short, reached out to my pal in Ecuador, Fernando, who did some readings for me and stuff, like tarot cards and all that. And he's very, very in tune, this guy. And he said, look, you need to, he basically encouraged me. He says, look, Mother Earth is reaching out. You got access to get some psychedelics. He says, if you've got mushrooms nearby, they grow nearby, obviously, they grow in the hills. So he says, go on a little journey. He said, there's no such thing as a bad trip. And I went, what is there though? Because I had a fucking really bad one. He went, you need to always trust the medicine and you need to let go. Never ever resist, because it will always be worth it. He says, when you feel it, surrender to it every single time. So I did a sensible dose of mushrooms on my own, in my house, did the rituals, the practices, the intention, everything was set. And I had a really profound experience. And what came out of that was actually what happened was within 5 minutes of feeling like I was kind of starting to feel the effects of it, it was like the dragon reappeared again. It was like I'd been waiting the whole time. And as soon as I started to go into an entranced state, it came back. And I was like, fucking give me all you got. And I let go, and I let it, the thing is, I let it pass through, but that was, experience has got me to that point where I now trust it enough to go, right, let go. And that's exactly what happened. I let go of this stagnation that had been in for so long, and I let it pass through and leave. And see, it can be so fucking effective in a sense like that. But the last thing I would say is that I forgot to say a minute ago is when you don't have respect for something like that, and you don't do the right practices in the way that you in the way that you can best practice yourself, you're opening yourself up for potentially bad experiences, because it's all about the energy that surrounds the area. It's about making sure you're in a safe place, making sure you're in a good place mentally, making sure you've got a strong intention related to it, making sure you've got a fire that's going. All these practices are really important, I think, to make sure that you don't let in any negative shit as well.
Yeah. Well, we could incorporate it into when you come to where I live and we do the Modern Warrior project here around a campfire.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. I think we need to do that next year.
Yeah. All right, mate. Well, I really need to go, I'm afraid. Otherwise, we can always do this again. Yeah. Listen, Lindsay Bruce official, Lindsay Bruce official. Do you use X?
I've got it, but I don't really go on it much.
Yeah. What about, do you have a YouTube channel? No.
Yes, but it's all private videos. They're all unlisted.
Yeah, okay.
Nah, Instagram is the best. I do have a website, but for some reason the modernwarriorproject.com isn't, for some reason, it's not directed to the website, even though that's the domain name. So I'm not sure what the score is with that.
Yeah.
But everything can be accessed through my Instagram.
Okay.
Maybe if you put the Instagram on the screen or something like that, then.
Yeah, I can. I'll do that. Yeah.
The link tree is where.
I'll do that. I always do that. Mr. Kindness on X and YouTube. Putting all the videos up on YouTube. This one will be on YouTube probably next week or soon enough. And but thanks a lot, mate. It was good to speak to you again. And keep on,
Pleasure.
keep on.
Yeah, as the saying goes.